Welcome back to another episode of the NFL Draft Bible Players Spotlight Show. I am your host, Chris Shanafelt, and joining the show now is one of the top quarterbacks in all of Division II football, Bart Williams, again, quarterback out of Grand Valley State University. Bart, really appreciate you taking some time this evening. Can you believe that you're heading into your senior season, that this college journey of yours is almost over? I mean, I don't know about you, man, but I remember, your sophomore year, your first year under center, kind of like it was yesterday.
Yeah, it is crazy to think about that, this is coming to an end, but at the same time, I mean, I have been here. It'll be my sixth fall, and all the guys that I came in with are basically gone. So I kind of look back on the season, and I think if I were to be done this past fall, it would have been too quick. But with another off season and kind of going to that sixth year, it does almost kind of seem like it's been a long time. But I'm real anxious to get started and see what the fall season has in store for us.
Absolutely, and a little over a month ago now, you guys had your spring game. Unfortunately, due to some NCAA rules, and because you redshirted a few years back, you mentioned it, you're entering your sixth year there at Grand Valley State. You were not able to participate in the spring game or spring ball in general. How does that kind of affect you? How do you feel about that? I mean, again, entering your sixth year, was spring ball in years past something you looked forward to? Are you kind of happy you don't got to go through it this year? Or, what exactly are you missing out on, if anything, when it comes to spring ball?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I obviously was off in spring ball, like you mentioned, and it was an interesting experience being away from the team. I had my first winter off since preschool, basically, of school, any schoolwork or anything. And I had no scholarship money. I had to kind of go out and find myself a job to support myself financially and, take my own time I was training out in Chicago every once in a while and lifting weights and conditioning back home as well, without my work schedule. But, it was tough. It's tough being away from your team that I was so used to being around. But at the same time, I know that, it was beneficial for those guys, my teammates that did do it, to kind of, have some time without me, and it gave a lot of people opportunity to grow. Cole Katopka, the backup, what an opportunity for him to get his feet wet and know what it's like to run the show without having me as a security blanket at his practice. He was the guy. People had to go to him if they had any questions. He had to lead the entire offense, and a lot of times, offensive practices practice in general comes down to how the offensive tempo is and how well run the offense does. And, being there for 4 or 5 years, personally, that's kind of expected to be able to run the team, but for somebody who hasn't really had that spotlight on him, I think Cole did a really good job and really seized that opportunity. And it was good for him to get a glimpse of what things are going to be like after this fall.
Again, we're chatting with Grand Valley State quarterback Bart Williams here on the NFL Draft Bible Players Spotlight Show. And Bart, you guys open up the season for a second time in a row against the University of Indianapolis. Last year, they got the 24-20 victory. A lot of their key guys are returning as well. One guy that really stands out to me is their young running back, number 4, Al McKellar. I know we're still, mid-May, late May. Still plenty of months to prepare for this game, but when you do start to prepare for this game, and I don't know if you've done that yet or not, how often are you going to be looking back towards that Week 1 game from last year to prepare for Week 1 this year?
Yeah, that's very interesting that we do get a chance to open up with the University of Indy again, and I think everybody, any athlete, any competitor wants another chance after you fall short, so I think we're really looking forward to that opening game. And really looking back at last year's film, we'll use that definitely, just because you get to see some of the same players, you get the same looks on defense, you see how they were lining up to our formations, what they were doing, when we had certain tendencies and things like that. I think our team is internally motivated enough not to just go out there and just want to take it out on a team that beat us. They're certainly, anytime you take the field, obviously trying to win, but I don't know if there's any extra motivation there based off the results of last year. And, we're going to have a new team that rolls into Week 1, and so will they. And just really excited to get things going. But really, what we're focused on right now is trying to prepare our bodies for the summer conditioning. Excuse me.
Well, being at Grand Valley State, Bart, means you play in the GLIAC, one of the top conferences in all Division II football, with teams such as Ferris State, Ashland, Northwood, Tiffin, and you could really just go on and on. Last year, the GLIAC had a total of 5 teams, including GVSU, with above 500 records. What's it like playing in one of the toughest divisions or conferences in Division II football? And is it something that you look forward to week in and week out? I mean, I know coming out of high school, Bart, you had a couple Division I offers on the table, but you decided to stay in your home state of Michigan. That was something you really wanted to do. I got to think something else that attracted you was the competition you would be going up against in the GLIAC as well, though.
Most definitely. And the coaches at Grand Valley did a really good job of making sure that I knew that. I had an offer from the University of Maine, which was kind of 17 hours or so the wrong way, north and east. I'd rather go south and west if I were to go 17 hours away from my home. But, yeah, when Grand Valley offered me, I honestly had a pretty good junior and senior year of high school, and was obviously looking at all the Division I schools and kind of dreaming big and hoping that one of those was going to work out for me, and really familiarizing myself with, those conferences like the MAC and the Big Ten, obviously. But, things didn't work out. And when I did decide to go to Grand Valley, that was certainly a big piece of it, that it was still going to be competitive football. And, I mean, like you listed off a lot of the teams. I mean, one of those teams, Saginaw Valley, 2 years ago, they won 2 or 3 football games, and we were undefeated. And they took us into triple overtime, and we ended up pulling out the win. But even some of these teams that their records don't show, they're above 500, they play us tough, and there's really good competition and really good kids in this league. I'm really blessed to be a part of this league. I'm really, really proud of Division II in the GLIAC, especially the competition level. I think that we're seeing football in general become extremely sought after by high school athletes, but there's still the same amount of slots on Division I schools. So you get a lot of kids that trickle down in the Division II ranks that makes for competitive football. Where I'm no history buff, but I bet 15 to 20 years ago, I don't think Division II was playing at as high a level as it is right now.
It's certainly hard to disagree with you there, Bart. I mean, the talent level as well as the competition level in Division II football is certainly at an all-time high. And, I want to circle back and look more into your game, Bart. I mean, something that really sticks out while watching your game over the years is the decline in interceptions thrown. I mean, your first year as a starter, your sophomore year, you threw 20 interceptions. In 2016, that number went down to 10, and then last year, that number comes down to 5. How have you been able to consistently get that number down over the years?
Yeah, that's something I've definitely worked on every season, especially in 2015. I mean, statistically, if you look at the yardage and the touchdowns, we were like, and honestly, I think yardage per catch, per completion was completely off the charts, and we were just killing people in 2015. But then you see we lost 3 games that year, and you look back to the interceptions and, some unfortunate turnovers, and that's really what limited us that year. So I definitely had a lot to build off, and there was obviously promise there after the 2015 season to, continue this way of being a productive quarterback in my league and at Grand Valley State. And, the second year, I think just after having those 15 games under my belt and having a whole offseason to digest what had happened and really get after it and get into the offense and really figure out the ins and outs of the offense, and really just another year of maturity and experience just helped me out a lot in 2016. And something to note, too, is in that 2016 season, I threw 10 interceptions, and I only threw an interception in 3 football games. So if you I threw 3 of them against Ferris, I threw 4 of them against Saginaw, and I threw 3 of them against someone else. But anyways, there were, I think we played 13 games that year, and in 10 of the games, I didn't even throw an interception. So I think what you see there is that when I did throw an interception, I don't think I was mature enough to really shake it off and, get past that and get to the next one. And I think that's really where I improved this past season is even if I threw an interception this year, I did a really good job, I think, of shaking it off and getting back and running the offense. And I think in the last game I threw 2 interceptions, but that was the most. I only threw 1 in a few other games. So I think that the story of those interceptions it's obviously a number that's decreased over the years, but it tells a story of my progression and maturity as a quarterback at Grand Valley.
And having a short memory is probably one of the best traits you can have as a quarterback. Something else that really helps out Bart, and I'm sure you'll attest to this, is having a playmaker in the backfield like Marty Smith. How have you guys been able to complement each other's game? How does he help you out in the passing game, and how do you help him out in the running game?
Most definitely. So in 2015, Kirk Spencer was taking most of the load at tailback, and for whatever, he's a very talented player. If you look at his statistics, he's probably top 10 in most of the Grand Valley rushing records. But we relied a ton on the pass game in 2015, and Marty Carter kind of came on a little bit there at the end of the season in the postseason, and really we realized how much talent we had at that backup tailback position. And going into 2016, he just really lit the world on fire, led the nation in rushing, and I think that has really been a good benefit to me personally and our offense. Anytime that you have a running back that has the combination of speed and power and elusiveness that he has, obviously it's good for your football team, and secondly, it's good for the quarterback, because when people start loading the box, that leaves one-on-one matchups for the skilled players on the outside. And Marty, again, I should say, his pass protection has been pretty good too. So people load the box and try to blitz. That's a scary endeavor for a defense. You're kind of hanging some guys out to dry in the back end there and not giving them any help underneath. And that's really one of the biggest things that we've tried to do, and we've tried to be dominant both in the pass and the run game to try to keep defenses honest. I think it's a very unique situation we have here at Grand Valley, where we can throw for over 300 yards and run for over 300 yards in the same game. I don't think there's a lot of teams that have the capability of doing that really at a consistent basis.
No, there isn't. And, something else that you guys do very well there at Grand Valley State, Bart, is, the next man up mentality. I mean, God forbid if you go down at some point this season, Cole Katopka, you sound pretty certain that he could come in and fill in pretty nicely for you. He got the reps in spring ball this year. We've seen Marty Smith step in. And what about Nick Kaiser, though, tight end? This is a guy that has moved on to the next level. He signed as a priority free agent with the Baltimore Ravens. He's, of course, known for picking up the dirty work, fantastic blocker, and was on the receiving side of 9 of your passing touchdowns from a year ago. With that said, not only did you guys have great chemistry on the field, but off the field as well, as you guys are best friends. Your thoughts on Kaiser moving on to the NFL, and how will you guys attempt to replace the impact that he's had on the team over the years?
Yeah, that's a perfect example of the next man up. So we go into the last season really counting on having probably the 3 best receivers in the GLIAC, at least in our minds, we thought. We always believe in our guys, and then having Austin Parachie was kind of that 4th guy that if he gets in there, we know we can count on him. But we really had 3 really elite receivers, and typically we're an 11 personnel team. Well, Erskine Smith ends up getting a little banged up in camp, and then Nick Dodson has an upper body injury in camp, and neither of them are good to go for the first 4 to 5 weeks. And that Dodson injury happened just a few days before we started game prepping for Indy. And who's the next guy? Austin Parachie. He's up. He's in there. Brandon Bean's still healthy. And we have to throw a redshirt freshman in at wide receiver, Brandon Wadley, and very talented, very bright future, but probably just not quite ready for week 1. And Nick Kaiser, he's the one that had to step up. He's been down blocking inside zone since he stepped at the Grand Valley. And all of a sudden we need him as a down-the-field threat. And in the first game of the season, he really blew up. He had, I think, over 100 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns in that first game. And from there, it kind of showed us the potential that he had as a receiving tight end and a blocking tight end. And like you said, it's that next man up mentality. So even if we didn't get that production from the same position at wideout due to injury, we found somebody who was, really embracing what it means to be a Laker, on and off the field. and really stepped up and really made the most out of his senior year. I don't think that he was on any NFL radar before the season even started. Maybe a little bit going into camp. Scouts coming to watch practice noticed that he's a big body. But then seeing some of the things that he did on Saturdays for us was very impressive. And like you said, he's my best friend, and I believe in the guy. I find him unique talent in the NFL that a lot of tight ends that go in just to block, you look at him and you can just look at him and tell that, catching passes might not be their forte. And I firmly believe that he might be one of the best blocking tight ends on the roster with the Ravens right now. But he also offers you that ability to, throw it to him 40 yards down the field. He offers the ability to, play action boot and give it to him in the flat, and he can advance the football. So he's certainly not one-dimensional in terms of just blocking, and that's what he kind of showed here in his final season at Grand Valley that put him on the radar to be on an NFL team. And I couldn't be more proud of him, and I'm glad really things worked out the way they did for him. And I'm really excited to see what the future holds for him.
A few more questions with the Grand Valley State signal caller, Bart Williams, here on the NFL Draft Bible Players Spotlight Show. And Bart, I kind of want to touch on all phases. We're spending a lot of time talking about the offense, rightfully so. You are the quarterback of the team. But how about the defense? I mean, this was a pretty impressive defense. I mean, you guys only allowed 15 points per game. Being the quarterback of the team, of course, you're expected to be the leader of not only the offense, but the team as a whole. How many times throughout the course of a game are you talking to the defense, talking to defensive players after a 3-and-out or after a forced turnover against opposing teams' offenses?
Yeah, that's a good question. And fortunately for us last year, two of my best buddies that I came in with, Garrett Pugnier, who was at minicamp with the Steelers, and he played linebacker for us, and Colin Slosher, another linebacker. It was us three. We were team captains. So I was the only captain on the offensive side of the ball, and we had two captains on the defensive side of the ball. And I trusted their leadership on that side of the ball for the most part, other than obviously chatting it up with some of the defensive guys in the locker room and stuff. But in terms of in-game adjustments and in-game, obviously, someone makes a good play, give them some love. But I trust those guys on the defensive side, and I'm more locked into my assignment on the offensive side of the ball than giving them too many pointers. But it's a really cool dynamic that you kind of have these two separate entities, the offense and defense, working apart from each other but towards the same goal. And I give those defensive guys props, and I'm always going back and forth with them in the locker room or even at practice and stuff, because all they do is just try to get in your head. But it's a good time. I've always appreciated how they take the field with just the worst intentions possible and just trying to rip people's heads off. And I've never faulted them for lacking energy or really just wanting to kill somebody. and as a quarterback, and really as just a fan of football in general, you just love that out of your defense. Even though I got to throw a shot at them. Yeah, I think they're the stupidest people on the planet, but. No, that's just Joe. I just can't wait to hear back from them about that. But anyways, yeah, they're great guys, and like I said, I just love the intensity and love the attitude that we have from that side of the ball.
So we talked about your teammates, offense and defense. What's it like working with this coaching staff that's assembled there at GVSU? Matt Mitchell being the head coach now, going on for his eighth season. Offensive coordinator Tim Morrison and quarterback coach Matt Vitzthum. Talk about these guys. How much of an impact have they had on your success there at Grand Valley? And again, I mean, a very impressive group of coaches that I gotta think you feel very lucky to be around.
Most definitely. I mean, Coach Mitch has been the head coach since I've been there at Grand Valley, and I really can't really explain how much I appreciate everything he's done for me, and really just the role model that he's kind of played for me in my life. Just when I came in, he was the defensive coordinator and head coach. We had a terrible 2014 season, and just how unselfish he was in knowing what he had to do to benefit the team and what he felt like needed to be addressed. And he stepped down. He personally stepped down from the defensive coordinator position and let, Jim Lewis, Coach Lewis, take over those duties, calling the plays. And as a head coach, to step down like that and really hand off like your precious little baby to someone else. Basically, he stepped down to coordinate all special teams and to be the basically culture coordinator of the team. So set guidelines, set standards, know what's expected from each player at every position. And to me, really, that just says a lot about his character and how much he values this team and how much success that he wants to bring to this university, that he's willing to do that for the betterment of the team. And, Coach V and Coach Morrison have been really great for me too. Coach Morrison's done a great job calling the plays, great job really anchoring those guys down in the offensive line room and making sure that those guys are ready to play every single Saturday. Playing offensive line at the college level is much more than just being big and being able to hit somebody hard. And Coach Morrison does a great job. It's actually pretty impressive. If you pick the brain of some of these offensive linemen, it's pretty impressive what they can tell you based on their technique, based on what look they're getting, what they have to do, whether they're on the tight side or the split side. And it's pretty impressive, some of the things that these guys have learned and really have hammered into their heads and how they can not just know it on the chalkboard, but they can actually go out and do it. And you got to give Coach Morrison a ton of credit for the performance of those guys up front. And then, Coach V and Coach Gann have really been great for me, coordinating the pass game. And personally, just me and Coach V have gotten along really well. Coach Ginn was the wide receiver coach, but he was the quarterback coach my freshman year, and then Coach V stepped in. And I really can't say how much he's done for me. He's always held me to the highest standard possible. He never let me get away with me underperforming. And for that to be the case, but also have a personal relationship with him that I do is pretty unspeakable. And it just kind of goes to show how great of a guy he is and how much he cares. And really, when I think about Coach V, I just think a competitor. I just think of somebody who is willing to do whatever it takes to get a win. And I've always appreciated having him in my corner, being able to do that. And I think we are very similar in that aspect, and we both kind of respect each other based on our competitive nature and really whatever it takes to get the win and whatever it takes to exceed any sort of expectation. And basically, football is a progress over perfection game, but really performance is what matters at the end of the day, and not settling for anything less than great.
Well said. Well said. Two more questions for you, Bart. Really do appreciate your time. Focusing more so on this season, what exactly are your expectations? You mentioned it. You've been there for now 6 years at Grand Valley State. I got to think you want to go out with a bang. Last year, you guys just missed the playoff run, the playoff picture, excuse me. Do you believe this is a team that can contend for a national championship? Obviously, that's the ultimate goal. Do you believe with the guys that you have surrounded around you this upcoming season that goal could be achieved?
Yeah, I definitely believe in my guys. I believe in everybody that, it all comes down to recruiting. There's nobody that just randomly walks through the door and is just on the team. And I believe in everybody that the coaches have basically invested time into to bring in. But again, football and the way we approach it at Grand Valley, it's all a process-driven game. No matter how talented you are, no matter how good you look in pads, no matter how high you can jump, what you can bench press, what you can squat, all that, it doesn't matter if you don't go about things the right way and have the right attitude about it. And I think that, like I said, Coach Mitch has done a great job coordinating the culture of our team. And I think on top of having some of the best athletes in Division II, I think we have a lot of guys that are doing things the right way and taking care of the process of what it takes to win football games. And ultimately, you got to take it week by week. But I think that every time we step onto the field, we expect to win and we expect to make our presence felt. But obviously, nothing's guaranteed. And if you see, we've had many instances where we come in on a Sunday after the game and we see that we weren't doing the process. We weren't taking care of assignments. We've had assignment busts. So I think that we certainly have a lot to work on, and a lot of that kind of starts coming up here when summer conditioning starts. But I definitely do believe in our guys that every time that I take the field with them, I believe that we definitely have an edge, and we expect to win.
And as you said, you got to take it one game at a time, and that starts Thursday night, August 30th, against the University of Indianapolis. Final question for you, Bart. For those who don't know, you're what, 6'6", 225 pounds, and again, one of the more prolific passers in all of college football. Throughout your career, you've thrown for over 9,800 yards. 105 touchdowns, some really big time numbers, and then watching the film, it certainly, it certainly tells the story. I'm not sure if there's a Harlan Hill Trophy Award watch list out there yet. I'm certainly going to be working on one coming up soon. I certainly have not only you're not the only Laker on that's going to be on that watch list, but your running back Marty Smith as well. Is that a trophy that, is that one of your goals as well? Obviously, the team comes first. You want to, win every single game that's on your schedule. You want to win the national championship. But how cool would it be to end your career with not only a national championship, but the Harlan Hill Trophy as well?
Yeah, that would be a great honor. I can't lie, when I came into Grand Valley State after every single Division I school passed on me, I felt like I had something to prove. And before I even got a chance to play football, I'd be the starting quarterback here, I certainly did know what the Harlan Hill was and did have that in sight. But like I said before, a lot of that just comes from the process, and a lot of that is out of my control personally. And if it happens, it happens. I'll be grateful for it. And, me having that in my sights back 5 or 6 years ago was probably just a little immature and not really knowing the whole picture. But it's a statistically driven award, basically. And I can't control my statistics. I can throw the ball in the right spot and have it get caught. And but game situations come into play. And if I have to throw the ball 100 times a game and get 1,000-yard passing a game, that'd be great, as long as we're winning the football game. If I got to hand it off to Marty 50 to 100 times and we win the football game, that's really the ultimate goal, is winning the football game. But it's such a process-driven. We're such a process-driven team, and that process is ultimately to win football games. It's not to pat stats to win awards. But I think that if you watch the film, I really anticipate making leaps and bounds in my performance from last year. I really hope I can get more technical and put the ball in good spots. And the process that I'm doing right now is hopefully setting myself up for success in the fall. And if I'm blessed enough that I'm in the situation to receive that award, I would certainly be very grateful of it. But obviously, football is a team sport, and awards aren't won like that by yourself. There's always, obviously the offensive line, who's never going to get in the newspaper even, are going to attribute to a lot of that success, hopefully. But like I said, whatever we have to do to win games next year, I'm willing to do, and I think that the film is going to speak for itself. That whatever play is called, I'm going to execute it to the best of my ability.
Hey, humble words from the quarterback of the Grand Valley State Lakers, and for those listening, they can certainly understand why you are the leader of the football team. Bart, really appreciate you taking some time this evening. Really enjoyed this conversation, and really looking forward to seeing what you're able to do in this last year of yours as a Laker.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. It was a ton of fun.